Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I am here to talk Prisma Visions. Now, the Prisma Visions Tarot has been one of those decks that I think Anthony on her 31 Days of Tarot had a question about, like a deck that you checked off your list that you had for a long time. There were a couple of them I feel like I did last year, but this has been on my list for a really long time, and I have to say that I have just in the last month or so really started to fall more in love with this deck. I think that it's absolutely gorgeous, and that has never been a question to me whatsoever. It's a stunning deck. But you all know how I tend to approach and love the sword suit. And I was like, oh, I don't know about the sword suit in this particular deck, if I can get on board with it. And so I just kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then Patrick let me borrow his so I could check it out. And I was like, oh, that's something I'm actually interested in. I did some readings with it, and I liked how it read. So now I do have this copy with it, and I have actually been using it for clients. So this is obviously going to be a first impressions, but this one I have actually been using for myself as well as with clients this winter, and I'm definitely I'm really loving how it reads. It's visually stunning. Some of the cards, they come up and I'm like, oh, like the Three of Wands is one of those that has been like, oh, that's just a beautiful, perhaps my favorite rendition of the Three of Wands in any of the tarot decks that I have. So it's really been one of those that have just creeped up, and from being just beautifully stunning and innovative, but I don't know if I'd ever read with it, to being one that I'm actually really enjoying reading with. So I put it all back into order because Prisma Visions had Camille from Prisma Visions had reached out to me and said, that she'd seen that I did walkthroughs, and that they would love for me to take a look at one of their decks. And I told her, well, I have this one. And so apparently, which I didn't know, or somebody I think had mentioned it to me, but I don't know, it hadn't clicked. But apparently the first edition, which is the first one that I had seen, which is more of a black and white or sepia toned one, which is the first one that I had seen. By the time that I had seen that, though, that was already out of print. And apparently they brought it back into print, which is really exciting. And so I have this one to be able to compare to my Prisma Visions here. So, love, I'm all for the little packaging things, and things like this just make me happy. I will say that this deck is probably my absolute favorite. I'm trying to think, but it's probably one of my absolute favorites in terms of packaging. Like the box. I mean, look at that. When you just open it and this is what you see, like, I don't think it gets any better than that, other than maybe not having sort of advertising on the back of it. But, that's how deck boxes are. But that's, just packaging wise, this is so stunning. So it's obviously, this is wrapped in Prisma Vision eye paper. Ooh, I'm a purple person. I'm a purple person, and I didn't know it was a purple box. That's gorgeous. So we're doing a little bit, I didn't know whether to do these separately or as one. I really was kind of back and forth about that, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to start it this way. Oh, look at that. Right. This way. Look at this. Oh, was that sort of glitter in the eye and these? Now, I don't know if this is how it was originally packaged. I don't know if they've changed things. Those of you who already have maybe the first edition of this can let me know. There are several editions of this, and I know each of the editions has a different extra card. I have the one with the strawberry, so I don't know which edition that makes it, but that's the one that I have. And I don't know if this did the same thing or not. I really don't. This was out of print by the time that I had my eye on Prisma Visions. So packaging wise, you know, the box is the same size, and it's got the same background, but it is in purple tones. And obviously it's a little bit fancier here with gold. Oh, this is perfectly stunning. They're just stunning in different ways. So again, sideways, everything about it is very similar. And even the back here you have, this is called the Light Visions Tarot, whereas this is the Prisma Visions Tarot. And so it has the same, different cards, but it has the same panel of options here. And they both say 79 card deck illustrated by James R. Eads, E-A-D-S, and includes a 100-page guidebook. They both say that. I'm assuming that the guidebooks are the same because the cards, I don't think the cards are different. Although I feel like there was one or two that I saw in the advertising that looked different than this. So there may be a couple changes. That's what we're going to find out. We're going in on this together. So beautiful, beautiful packaging. Let's see. Let's see. I mean, come on. Come on. Like, look at this. Like, it's just... the packaging, aesthetics wise, it's so stunning. I mean, it's kind of ridiculously stunning. So let's see if they both say the same thing inside here. The fool believes he is someone he is not, wading through waters for something unsought. The magician plays tricks in the dark of the night, refracting the light of all future sight. A set of cards to tease your mind, revealing a past, present, future combined. So it's the same text, just in a beautiful burgundy purple, a gorgeous color. Yeah, this color is so stunning. And you can see that there is a similar... this kind of, the way that you have this, I don't know, these little swirls and curves and things are similar, but it is not the same. This is a slightly larger, whereas this is smaller. We have the eye in the middle, slightly more hooded. Obviously, we don't have these kind of bands around the eye. So it's a similar, that's kind of an interesting glossy, to the closed eye on the back. Actually, I never noticed that the eye was closed on the back. That's pretty cool. So there we go. The backs of the cards are obviously that same. Let me pull these out. The backs of the cards are the same as this minus that. And the same thing here. The backs of the cards are that same, whoops, that same aesthetic here. It just has a border or a frame around it similar to the colored version. So let's that leads to this, of course, we have that same opened eye. So this is kind of a slightly hooded eye here, kind of just peeking out. That's a little bit creepy. Actually, so is this. More so, it's not the same openness as this or that. So that's kind of creepy and interesting. So yeah, so that's what we have going on. Again, probably, I'm trying to think. I love Baba Studio boxes, so those are pretty close in beauty to these, like the Bohemian Gothic. But this, I would say, I'm just looking at my things, would be my absolute favorite in terms of tarot deck packaging. So we'll get back here. Let's just finish the kind of overview. We can see that the Prisma Visions is a silver gilding. It's a very reflective, and this has been shuffled. I've used this quite a bit. And it's been shuffled. It reminds me, Fountain Tarot is a silver, shiny silver gilded, and I've shuffled the heck out of it. And you can tell that I've shuffled it, but it's still really beautiful. And I think this is going to be the same. I think it's going to age really, really well. And so then for the light visions, it is a gorgeous gold. That same really reflective gold. But it's not sticky at all. Like, you don't get the card. And this is brand new. Obviously, this is not, but this doesn't stick and this doesn't stick. So, you know, obviously aesthetically very much in tune with each other. The only production wise, the only negative that I have, because again, I've used this deck now for a while, and so the only negative I have for production value is that, let me see, does this have a extra card? Oh, yeah, and it's the Orchard. I'm going to pull that. I have it at the end of the major, but I'm going to pull it to the front. So this has one called the Orchard. Now, again, I don't know if that's what the original had. I'm guessing it's a different one because it seems like with each version, they pull out a different extra card, which is kind of cool. You know, in terms of collectability, that's really cool. It kind of delineates... it delineates the different editions of the deck. But as I was saying, the only negative that I have to say about this deck, and it's personal preference, is the gloss. I really wish that these were matte. This is all beautifully matte, and I wish the cards were beautifully matte as well. But that's a personal preference. There's a lot of people who really love the laminate because it does make the cards slide really well. It does pop color and nuance, or it can pop color and nuance. So it's not a criticism, because I think that there are many people who that's a big plus for them. For me, I really love matte cardstock, and I would have preferred it to be matte. So that's just like a quibble, but that's the only thing production-wise that I would possibly say about this deck negative, because everything production value-wise is stunning. Okay, so I checked, I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I love this kind of thing. I love comparing things. Apparently this is the first edition with a strawberry. The second edition has a fish, and the third edition has a card that is called Illumination. And so that's how you would know the edition that you have. And apparently the second edition is supposed to have glossier. I would definitely say, I mean, this is... I guess this would be semi-gloss. Like, it's not as glossy as, like, say, a shiffer, but it's, and I do have a window right here and open, so it's a little bit shinier, but it's not as shiny as some. So I can see where, I'm glad I have the first edition then. I don't feel, well, let's see, these must be the new... Yeah, I mean, I guess these could be. I'm not real great at that, to be honest. They're both shiny to me. So I could say maybe this is a little bit more shiny than this, but I'm not good at that. They're both gloss finished. So that's as far as I'm going to get, folks. That's as far as I'm going to get. So again, this was the original deck that was put out in 2014, 13 or 14. And I think it was 2013, for a limited run of 500, and it was in a wooden box. And so this is the 5-year anniversary, and so that means that must have been 2013. 5-year anniversary, they've re-released it with the same box as the Prisma Vision. So there's our history there. There's our history. We're getting there. A little backwards, but we're getting there. I'm assuming, I'm going to take a quick, here, let's slide these to the side. Let's slide these to the side. We'll keep Prisma Visions over here with Prisma Visions, and Light Visions over here with Light Visions. Let's keep things separate. I'm assuming these guidebooks are the same, just because it's the same deck, it's just in different colorations. I don't know. I will say the little opening thing is not the same. I like this. There are two main reasons why I make art. The first reason is for myself. It helps me grapple with the existential questions that fill my mind. When I make something I can really connect with, there's a little bit of my soul understanding its place. The second reason is for you. Art is healing, especially now. The Light Visions was the very first tarot deck I created. Originally, I hadn't planned to re-release the deck, but if the world can be made a better place through sharing art, then this deck is something I want to continue to share with the world. The Light Visions is very near to my heart and is one of my favorite things I have created. This edition is to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the first Light Visions tarot. So that's really nice. I like that. Getting to know the deck. So now this seems to be, yep, text-wise the same. Then you have a 3 card. Seems to be the same. Oh, I need to try, oh, the different, oh, some new, well, you have the 5 card, but you have a past life spread versus a Celtic cross. I like that. I'm going to have to look at that. And then it goes into the cards. So it appears to be similar, just with a couple different changes. And on the cards themselves, you have like a little thumbnail representation of the main image of the card. And then you have about 2 paragraphs. And that goes all the way through into the minors, so it all seems to be similar in that way. And then it ends with, and now you know. I love that. Does it do that at the end of this? Let's see. And now you know. I love it. So we have the artist, which of course is James R. Eads, and the author of the guidebook is Catherine Toombs. And her favorite card apparently is the Sun card. So there we have the guidebooks. Again, matte finish, beautifully. Everything about it's gorgeous. Love it. It is handy. I do quite like this because he does have some different takes on things. So it is handy to have. But they are also quite easy to, I find, to be quite easy to read with. And so it's not something you necessarily have to be going back to a lot. But when you do, it is nice to have it. So there's the guidebooks. Let's read the 2 for the, so you can get a feeling for the writing. Let's read the 2 for the extra cards. Okay. So we'll start with, because even though it's the new one out right now, it's obviously the very first one in terms of creation. So let's give it props. Here we have the orchard card. You come across an orchard of apple trees. Each tree is ripe with plump fruit ready for the picking. But this may not be your orchard. The apples that glisten in the sun are the fruit of another's labor. The orchard has been cared for and has grown together as one, with a family of roots connecting it below the soft earth. When this card comes up in a reading, take note of what relationships you might be benefiting from without offering much in return, knowing that energy does not just manifest itself, but it is created from some other form of energy. So if you choose to pick the apple from the tree, remember that you may later find yourself in debt with another. That's pretty awesome because it kind of feels like a fairy orchard where, you know, be careful. Don't take gifts when you don't know who you might be beholden to. But I think you could read this, you know, obviously I'm one that you could read this in many different ways. Could read this also. It's just that understanding of the way that all things are interconnected, the way that energy that comes, you know, we look at this and we say, oh, this is really wonderful. All the trees are nicely trimmed. That didn't come from nowhere. We don't just get apples. Yes, we can get apples falling off of trees. But in the terms of an orchard, work went into that. And that's what's allowing energy to come out. So that understanding that interconnection of work and reward or things coming back to you, I think is a powerful way you could use that as well. So let's take a look at the strawberries. Life bursts forth, streaming out of strawberries. This seminal energy is present in many of the strongest, most active cards of the tarot deck. Jubilant and powerful, it flocks to any conduit that can manifest it. When you see its energy turn up in a read, know that some facet of your life is anointed right now. You are charged with the same raw power that split open the first atoms of the universe. I love that. Many readers will opt to take the strawberries out from their decks as it is not part of the original arcana. the choice is yours to make. I don't generally leave cards in decks, and when I do, I end up taking them in and out. Sometimes I leave them in, sometimes I take them out. But this one I actually really love. I love that they're completely different. It's not like he just has the same card with a different image on it. Like, it's a different card with a different meaning to it. I think that's pretty cool. So there we have that with the extra cards. Let me put those over here for right now. And this will bring us to the time in which we need to zoom in. Okay, so here we have the wonderful Fool card. I really love this. Now, I will say, just in terms of looking at these, it's a little easier to see what's going on with the colored one, with the Prisma. So we have lights and Prisma. Just because here we have a wolf or a bear. I see it as a bear, but I think it's actually a wolf. Yeah. A sodden lone wolf. But I love this card because depending on the reading, it's like, are you the wolf or the bear, however you want to see it, or are you the pelican, right? But I think that technically it's obviously the wolf, because the pelican is secure. It's up on the pier. It can fly off whenever it wants. Whereas the wolf has swum out here thinking, oh, I can get a meal, but now what, right? He can't get up there. He can't get back out. Now he's tired. He's going to have to swim all the way back. And so, you know, that's definitely the foolish behavior. But I also like the pelican has that sort of on the edge of a cliff, but he can get up and fly. So there is, it's interesting. I like the interplay. We can see there are some differences just in the type of art style with the clouds are different. So it's not just scanned this image and then redrawn or you know, colorized or whatever. We can see in the waves that it's got that more of this dot effect, which is really quite known for this beautiful impressionist feel, which there's less of that here. You can see the star that is in the field, the bigger star that's in the star field. So it's not just a color switch. There's actually differences between them. So then that comes to one of my favorite cards in the deck, which is the Magician. I mean, this is such an amazing card. Now this one appears more similar, although again, you can see that the ground is different, painted differently, sketched differently, however this is done. You can see that the trees are not the exact same. There's a banking going over here. So there are elements that are the same. This tree is split off here and you don't necessarily see that here. So the stars within his body are different. There's a little bit more of the stylized stars versus just the scattered light effect here. So there are differences in this one, but they're both. There's something so interesting about this magician who is literally in the act of manifesting, but he has this person between his hands. So is this a person manifesting himself? Is this a giant magician that we can't see that is manifesting the entire world? Are we the dream within the dream? There's so many ways that you can roll with it. I love the Magician card in this deck. You can see even the framing is a different style so it's not just a color swap. Here is the beautiful High Priestess. Now I have to say I actually prefer the colored one of this version, but they're both gorgeous. There's just a lot more going on here, but the one thing I do like about this one is that it feels like she is literally coming up out of the water, and that's like water being shed off of her legs. You have the pomegranates in the water, but there's a different number of them. I like that you can really see the shadow here, which you don't see as much here. So it's just different. There's details here that you can't see here and vice versa. So I think that they're both really powerful. I just love this particular High Priestess as well. The idea of coming up and out of the water, the pomegranates. We still have the crescent moon, but I love that we can see the shadow here. I do love that we can see the ripples where her feet are even more predominantly, but then there is just something gorgeous and clean about this, as well as the red pomegranates popping, and the moon is really pops out as well. So they're just different, you know, they're just different. Here, and now this is actually quite different. Well, you know, let me say that. They're not quite different. We still have a woman that is hovering over the earth, right? She's crowned by stars, and she embodies... This is stunning. I love this card. I love it to death, but this card, yeah, that one excites me. Gorgeous. This is gorgeous. Now here's the Emperor. Definitely some changes here. We do have that sort of ram's horn smack in the middle here on both of them. We do have that existence of a scepter, although there's two scepters here. We can see, it's going to be hard for you probably, I don't know if you can see, there are actually 4 other ram's horns, heads, or skulls I should say, in here as well. I never noticed those, to be honest, because I just kind of focused here, whereas obviously here they're very prominent, where on these they kind of blend in with the rest. So pretty cool. This has a very much more, a little more, they both feel very esoteric, but this one kind of feels a little more esoteric. So I love the use of color here. I love the sort of impressionist look of this card. But I do really like that kind of old school esoteric feel of this one. So I like them both for different reasons. This is really gorgeous. Now this one feels, you know, much more alike. Although again, because of the starkness of the 2 tones, this the whole scene stands out better in this hierophant. Although again, this is gorgeous, but there's just something powerful about this one. But we may have a theme here. Okay, so see, I mean, these are gorgeous. This one again feels, it's definitely reworked. It's not just swapped. It's like reimagined, recolored. Sorry, I just had to run downstairs because the postman, not for me, but for our neighbor, and then ran back up the steps all the way up to theirs and then all the way back down. So this is beautiful. I love this card. I love the flow of the movement that's in this card. It's one of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites in this deck, but this is beautiful. They're both beautiful. They're just different. That's so far the theme. They're both gorgeous. They're just different. Ooh, okay, so here is a chariot. Now, I'm not generally a fan of modern things in my decks, like cars and things like that. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just personal preference. I love the headlights here and the rain. I prefer this one actually over this. It's probably the first one that I prefer, but I do like the kind of old school sketchy feel of the first one as well. So I would be happy with obviously both, but there is just something really cool about the light head beams shining through the rain, and I quite love that. I've had this card come up a few times in readings for people where, you know, that head beam or that light is quite interesting. It's kind of added another dimension to how I read the chariot card, and I quite enjoy that. Here we have the strength card. Again, this one's quite similar, just a change in sort of art medium, but they feel very similar. You can see, again, the pack of lions, which I hadn't noticed the first time I saw this card. In subsequent times that it's shown up, I've noticed it more, that I realized it was a pack of lions, which I really like in this card, and those really do stand out quite well here, because it just shows we have many different strengths, and we tap into many different aspects, and when we really kind of connect to all of those aspects of self, and that's where strength arises. I really love this card. I think I love every single major arcana in this deck. So there we have that. Here we have the beautiful Hermit. I love this card so much. I definitely prefer this over this. However, I love the tangled trees because it kind of reminds me then of what I love so much about the Fountain Tarot, that tangle that you have to sometimes work a little bit, right, to get that wisdom. So I quite like that, but this is just so, so, so beautiful. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune. They're both gorgeous. I love the knotwork feel. It really stands out beautifully here. I love actually love this, what it's wrapped around, almost like a tree trunk, or you're getting like spokes here and lines. So I quite like the tree part of this as well. So they're, again, both beautiful. I prefer probably that one, even though this image is probably one of the closest so far of being pretty close to identical to each other, but there's just something about the way that pops. Oh, these are both gorgeous. See, that's a completely the same thing as that I would say here. These are pretty much identical, but there's just something about, there's a powerfulness about the two tones that really pops in a beautiful way. But they're both really gorgeous. Cutting that snake cutting is very powerful. Cut through into the truth of things. It just, in the blood on the finger being bitten, cut the hand that bites you. I don't know. There's so much going on in this particular Justice card. Let's see what it says here. Encircling its victim, a serpent strikes into the soft flesh and blood trickles down from the puncture. But the moment the snake sinks its fangs into fingers, the hand has released the dagger and the asp is split swiftly in twain. I love that. He pays dearly for his moment of violent triumph. Cause and effect are securely in place here, and his treacherous victory is soon cut short. The sharper the bite, the sharper the sword. Yes, although if that is a poisonous snake, he could have the last laugh if this person then just dies from snake poison. You just don't know. You don't know where it could go. I love this. This is one of my favorite cards. See, I say that a lot in this deck. This is a favorite. This is a favorite. Oh, this is a favorite. This is one of my favorites. You have this person in this moment with piranhas around it. And of course, if they start thrashing about, they're going to get chewed up by these piranhas. But just and not only that, but the sea is stormy, and you can really see that in this one. I quite like the waves on this one better. I do like the colors here, but I really love the water because you get that choppy sense. Like if you stop, don't struggle, roll with the waves, just kind of be at rest here. That is really gorgeous. Surrender to the moment and be calm. Just comes loud and clear here. Here we have the Death card. They're both gorgeous. This is a little bit of a tighter rose. You do have this little green leaf here that's pretty lovely. I love the way that you can see the sun here, but you can see that here as well. They're both beautiful. They're just different. I probably, if push came to shove, I might choose this one on this because it stands out clearer where this gets a little bit busy, but they're both beautiful. Now, this is really gorgeous. Just straighten them up a little bit here. This is stunning. I love this card, and you have to look a little bit to see the person, which is something that I do like, right? There's a bit of, find where's Waldo, where you can kind of find things that don't jump out immediately that I love, but that is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Here we have the Devil. These are both actually gorgeous. And they're both difficult to see. Well, there's a snake here. I actually don't see the snake in this one. Yeah, I don't see the snake in that one, which is fine with me because I don't think I need I don't need that connotation. I don't really reference that. I love how tangled everything is. There is a seductiveness to this color palette. They're both beautiful. They're both beautiful, but I really like that one. Oh, this is gorgeous. This is I love this. This is such an interesting Tower card because you don't have that moment of upset. What you do have is that potential there. Things are not, you know, things are not secure, which is kind of one of the connotations to the Tower card, is that what gets knocked away has been destabilized. And so now you're going to have to rebuild. Whereas this is a little bit of a warning that things are structurally not sound and you better get in with some pillions and start to, you know, fortify things, because it's only going to take another storm to erode or a lightning to strike the tree and throw everything off balance. So there, in readings with people that I've done, this card has come up a number of times, and that difference there, that nuance, has played really well into the readings. But that's gorgeous. They're both gorgeous, but I love the detail on the house. I love the sun here. It really highlights, although they both do. It's beautiful. They're both beautiful. Ah, this one I love. This is beautiful, but that's love it. I mean, you just think Wendy flying for the first time. You think somebody, you know, you think yourself getting glitter from fairies sprinkled on you so that you can fly. I mean, there's such a feeling of hope and joy in this, in both of them, but this is gorgeous. Gorgeous. All of this vine work is just amazing. Amazing. I adore that. Here we have the moon. These look very similar. Again, there's some changes in how the moon exactly is and the way that the stars are. But this is very, very similar to each other. And they're both gorgeous. So what am I going to say? They're gorgeous. Now this is interesting. Look at this sun. You see a great deal of abundance in both of them. This is a really cool sun, all the colors, but I wondered what you would get, but you do get that same sense of abundance here. Sorry, I'm sending lots of pictures to Patrick, and he's being tempted. And so he's blowing up my WhatsApp. But yeah, these are both, they both speak abundance. This has to win for me, although I really like this, like, blowing, almost like footprints in some ways, or just the swoosh of things coming outward. You definitely get more of a standing in the doorway in the cosmos feel here. So I love them both, but this to me is, again, one of my favorite cards in the deck. It's probably one of my absolute favorite judgment cards. There's just such potential and possibility through here. This does definitely have that go to the light connotation. So, I mean, they're both cool, but this is, for me, that's kind of, wow. Here we have the World card. Again, these are quite similar. We do have the lion. We do have the bird here. We do have like the peacock or the swan going on. We do have some peacock feathers here. So we have maybe both a swan and a peacock. No, look at the head thing. So that's definitely a peacock. You get, you get that swirl in both of them. So they're quite similar. This does have the creepy eye in the middle, which I always kind of joke about, the creepy eye, where this does not. So I do appreciate that. I like them both. And that brings us to not the same. So we're going to pause here because I really do want to talk for a minute about, one of the amazing aspects of this deck in terms of the panoramic that, of course, these decks are known for. Okay, now these are obviously a little bit squished to try to get them all in my viewfinder, so a little bit overlapping here at the end. But you can certainly see what we're talking about. And you can, there are images online if you want to see them up close, how they all hook together. But you can see this amazing panorama where all the sequence, the backgrounds all connect with each other in a beautiful way. Now, my guess is that's going to be less striking in the light vision. However, my guess on some of them, other ones, the major arcana has been wrong, so... So you can still, you can definitely see it. There is obviously there's something beautiful, to be honest, about the sketch. It almost has that sketch effect that is really gorgeous as well. It's just different. There's a striking use of color here, where here there is a striking contrast between the dark and the light spaces that is really beautiful. There are some things that you can... I really love these. There's a playfulness here and more of a direct ballerina here. They're also looking in different directions. There is no fish here, but there are falling cups. Oh, there are falling cups. I always thought there was a fish there, but they aren't. They're just dropping cups. The cups, I do quite like that more obviously. She is looking straight at you in a very wonderful way that I quite love. Beckoning you to remember in a beautiful way. There's a sadness here in the 8. These two, of course, that sense of accomplishment and wish fulfillment and happily ever after are really played up with the color, but you can still really see it here, and the children in the tree really stand out here. So they're, again, both beautiful in different ways. And it continues to, I can't fit the court on, but you will see that from the tree of the children comes this wonderful, well, let me pick these up and then I'll show it to you because it's worth seeing that. So let me put these, and then we'll go back to regular flip through. I just wanted you to see, this is one of the amazing features of these decks. I will say in handling these, I can tell a difference that this second edition of the Lights Vision is a little bit glossier, and that's probably what the new edition of the Prisma Visions is as well. So you can actually feel that on the cards themselves. So let me put these together so you can see. There is a beautiful water dragon here in the court cards, and you can see those. One of the things that I do like is I do like how the people really stand out a little bit more on these, although I love the water look of the water dragon, so to speak. These also other coils really stand out more, showing how large the sea serpent is. So there are things I like about both. I really love this particular king. He looks very strong in his emotions. So yeah, again, it's just different. It's very similar, and yet there are different things stand out because of that. So I love it. I love both of them. But I just wanted you to see how this panorama. And again, I'll put a link to the website in the description box, and you can see images of the panoramas put out so that you can see them really well and in their full effect there. Okay, so I know we just looked at the ace or the cups or chalices, but I'm going to go ahead and flip through them. Again, similar but redrawn here. Same thing here. Again, a much more simplicity. I really actually quite like that though. I like the way that they look. I like you can really see, you can see their facial expressions here. They're both beautiful. They're just different. Really love these. I really feel like there's almost a sense of fairy sprites here, where this feels like ballerinas. So there is a difference, and this is more natural and chaotic, although this is as well, but I don't know. There's a difference here between these two, and I really, they're both beautiful, but I do really love that. He looks a little crabbier in this one, which he may look and you just can't see it as much. This one allows me not to see that. Four of Cups so much as the Boredom card, where he does look pretty grumpy. So that's a little bit harder for me to ignore, but you know, what are you gonna do? This is really beautiful. Again, in that sketch quality, there's just something really beautiful about these stark falling cups versus these. We can kind of see the liquid coming out. I kind of thought they were fishes, but they're not. They're just liquid falling out of the cups. So, but they both have cups on the shoreline as well. They're, again, beautiful, just different. There's something really poignant about the sketch quality here. Really love her facial expression here. Of course, your typical, you know, your 7 cups, you have a snake coming out of one. These are quite similar, just this is almost like the sketched version of this, which it is. Again, there's something really poignant here in this 8 of Cups, whereas he appears to be more looking to the stars. There's a little bit more sense of hope, I think, in this one. But I do love that both of them, and I never noticed it in this one, but I noticed here very clearly that it's almost, the staff is made out of the cups, and it's like the movement forward and the path forward is built on the successes in the past that you have, and I really like that. I really like that, and I didn't notice that before. And then here again, this is so stunning, but there is a, it's just as beautiful. It's just different. But you know, this obviously the sunrise with the color is really gorgeous. And I love this one. This feels like a storybook. The minor suit of Cups, Lisa's first suit, just has that old storybook feeling to it because of the sketching. But this is such a beautiful, they're both beautiful cards. And then that brings us to the page. Oops, I've got these mixed up here. Sorry about that. So here we have the pages. There's something poignant again about kind of being able to really see their faces and how close they're, just barely touching here, but they're both beautiful. I love this. I love this. Here he's right in the back of the dragon here. Love this. I mean, this is beautiful because of her dress. Both of them has her dress just pouring, but you can literally with the blues see the water, but I really like being able to see her form a little bit more. So again, like them both. And I really like his strong back here, although I have to say I like his bald head here as well. So I like them both. There's just a beautiful storybook quality to the two-toned. Very similar, again, beautiful use of light, which you don't quite see as much. There would be maybe some more lightness coming through the door, but they're beautiful. Pentacles, here we have the 2 zoomed in a little bit closer, but they're both very similar. 4 of Pentacles, again, very similar. I'm not going to keep, I probably will keep repeating myself. I love this 5 of Pentacles. I just think it's beautiful. There is a sense of hope that comes through with the way that the light falls here. How sweet is that? Both of them, but I don't know. They're just, I don't know. Beautiful. I love the 7 of literally planting. You only have a single fruit here where you have multiple fruit. I do like that multiple fruit in the 7 of Pentacles. But same thing here. You've got fruit in the 8 of Pentacles. The tending of the garden. It's just gorgeous. You know, that comes, you can see that growth, right? You can see the work that's put in, and then you see that coming into fruition in the 8. That's real gorgeous. And that's one of the benefits of having that connective storyline, is you see the, much like one of the things I love about the Santa Muerte Tarot, is because you can really see the progression of the minors, and that's something that really shines through in this deck as well. Gorgeous. I love that, you know, you very often see, obviously, the woman in the Nine of Pentacles dressed in gorgeousness, right? Whereas here, she has no clothes on whatsoever, but she has a bird of prey. That's a lot of confidence, right? Of course, very similar, just black and white. Beautiful, you know, happily ever after abundance of the Ten of Pentacles. Then we have the Page, the Knight with the unicorn eating of the strawberries of life. I do feel like he stands out a little better away from the kind of chaotic stylization of the tree. He stands out a little bit better, but, you know, they're both gorgeous. Both of these are beautiful. Lots of strawberries in the suits. These are also very seasonal. I don't think they exactly follow the seasons I do. Winter is air for me, which this is. Winter is swords. Pentacles, I'm guessing, is more fall or summer. And I see it more as fall. I don't know. We'll have to look at that in a minute because I'm not too focused on this. So here we have the King of Pentacles grabbing the bull by the horns, which is really awesome. And again, lots of strawberries. That brings us to the sword suit. Now, I had the most problem with the sword suit because I do love the suit of swords. I am a woman of the swords. The Queen of Swords is sort of my, you know, significator in many ways, and I just love the suit of swords. And it does have a little bit more of a cartomancy feel to the spades in cartomancy. However, I have come to understand this whole storyline. I love this too. Now, I really love this Two of Swords. That's gorgeous. I don't know. There's something about this face here that I love. But I love the cross. You still have the crossed swords here. But I've come to see this as sort of this one, you know, again, I get the Three of Swords in the Rider-Waite-Smith. I do like the butterflies at the end. There is going to be growth and transformation coming from a painful circumstance. So I get it. You know, it's just not, I've never, any Rider-Waite-Smith inspired deck, I'm not going to usually like the Three of Swords. We have the Four of Swords, kind of waiting, preparing, resting. We have the conflict of the Five of Swords, showing that there can sometimes the mind, you know, the Suit of Swords is all about the mind. And so we can see that conflict arising in the mind. Here we have the Six of Swords, which is just pause. I do really like this in this deck. There's just this harmony, this calmness, this moment of peace here. And then we have the Seven of Swords, again, why is this person stealing things? We're not sure. It could be for a good reason. It could be for not a good reason. What's going on underneath the surface? Again, we can work with that. It's when it started to come to this crazy, scary, giant toothed bird that started to lose me. However, I have come to terms with that. Here we have the Eight of Swords. I quite like this because she is, it's not, you know, yes, we've got the being hemmed in, but she can stand up and grab a sword, right? There is that ability for her to act. I quite like that. But this is where, so then we have this crazy, crazy Nine of Swords with this tooth, you know, giant swan with teeth. But look at how calmly in the face of this person is standing. So we have this, the mind, because the Nine of Swords is the nightmare card in Rider-Waite-Smith. However, for me, the Nine of Swords can be both. It is about a ton of mental energy, which can blow things out of proportion, or right, it can be very creative energy that you can tap into mentally, but this almost shows that in the face of crazy brain, you know, standing calm in that moment is going to allow you to then deal with the situation, not the exaggerated version of the situation. So that works actually really well. And then we have poor Ten of Swords guy being hauled off. Again, he's all poked here by a bunch of swords. He's being held, you know, carried off. So it's a, you know, it's a typical thing, although he doesn't look entirely dead to me. Maybe he's just pierced, right? So we have that sort of flying off. This one is the hardest one for me to kind of work the way I see the Ten of Swords, but I have that problem in the Wild Unknown too. I can't reconcile the Ten of Swords there, so I just kind of be like, yeah, it's just a culmination. But then we have the wonderful page of swords learning to stand and stand tall. We have the Knight of Swords willing to fight for what he believes in, that active driving mental force that is going to, again, stand his ground against crazies. And then we have the Queen of Swords, who is, you know, taming the beast, so to speak. But there is a degree of empathy here, and a degree of, which is, you know, for me, the Queen of Swords is often about empathy because of their own past experience. She's not stabbing the swan, she's tying its beak down. She's saying, look, like, let's not be crazy brain here. And then we have the King of Swords. Now, the problem that I had with this is like, oh, okay, what's happening? Is the King of Swords going to go kill the baby tooth swans? Like, that's really sad, and that does not seem like a very, for me, King of Swordsy thing to be doing. You should think of a better solution, right? So I'm going to look and see. I have not looked to see what the book says. Yeah, now see, it does say, okay, so I like that. This King of Swords, blade held aloft, stumbles across the nest of fey birds full of rakshas fledglings, and his sharp mind quickly grasps the value of his discovery. Raising his arms like a conductor, he conjures the swarms of butterflies down into the nest to feed the screaming chicks. Rather than clash with their raging parents, he has chosen to parley with their malleable offspring, trusting his unerring mental lucidity to subvert their feral instincts for good. For the first time in the Song of Swords, a smile is warranted and stretches gently across his face. So I like that. So I've definitely come to happy terms with the sword suit, which was the only thing stopping me from, you know, buying this originally, was what was stopping me from it. But I'm really happy to have come to terms with that. And that brings us to the beautiful wands. I know this is probably longer than normal, but I can't, you know, it's 2 decks in one, right? So here we have the Ace of Wands. Again, both gorgeous. Both gorgeous. I do love the hood here up there, so that there are subtle differences, but I love them both. I do like that we have the sort of interlocking of the both wands, so we see that dual energy there in this one, but they're both beautiful. This is one of my favorite 3 of Wands, and I love them both, but there is something gorgeous about this, the colors of flowers. So it's the idea of kind of tending the fire. She's literally feeding the fire, but what's coming up from the fire is more of what has been fed in. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. It's amazing 3 of Wands. Beautiful 4 of Wands, quite similar. Again, clashing 5 of Wands, very similar. 6 of Wands. This one is always interesting because it has such a 6 of Swords, right? Where you're generally going off into a better place. So, you know, I think that if you weren't looking closely, your brain would say, oh, that's the 6 of Swords. But it's not. But there is, again, that harmonizing of energy. I really love the 7 of Wands. Look at that. Like he's jumping from, he's keeping his balance. There is that sense of growth. And they're both beautiful. I love them. Here we have the 8 of Wands. Again, both very similar. The 9 of Wands. I actually quite like... I like them both. Look at it, almost looks like there's a lion back here with a lion face. I don't think there really is, but you know, I don't know if that's, well, let's look. Let's look, because we can. Because we can drop cards everywhere. Let me look in this 9 of Wands. 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120 Wands, 7, 8, 9. Has bred huge numbers, coiling up the trees and threatening to overtake you. The swath of energy you've cultivated from birth snakes out from its stronghold, attempting to bind you irreparably to the trunk. You've got so much energy going on. It's, you know, it's binding you to the trunk. I love that. You dig your wand grimly into the ground and continue to try to push forward. I do like that. I don't think that's supposed to be a lion back there. And then we come to the 10, and you can see him actually a little bit easier in this one. There is a figure with a sword, with the wands on his back that you traditionally see, but I also see a great deal of growing, moving, vibrant energy, which the 10 of Wands can represent for myself. So these both work really well for me. And then we have the Page of Swords, who seems to be stuck in a tree or manifesting in a tree. This one I'm not entirely sure about. Let's take a look. I don't think I've had this one come up. A vent bursts open on the riverbank, and a pillar of flame rushes out. Oh, this is a vent of flame. I thought that was a tree. Let's see, that's not good of me. He's drawing inward. He courses with the energy of Inferno. Power kindles in his spirit. So this is the call. He's just walking along, and a vent of energy pops up, and starts that call to magic. I like that. Now there's 2 going on with the Knight. He is at odds within himself. He is caught between 2 surging vents, each attracted to his potential and desirous of his energy. So he's a little bit short-sighted. He better work this out a little bit. It's a different Knight, but you could also just see, again, that sort of growing progression of somebody who now has, you know, so much energy around him, starting to manifest that. You see much more of a struggle here with it binding him than in this one. Then we have the beautiful Queen. Unlike the children who, Page and Knight, who are caught, the Queen directs its energy so that she dances gracefully atop it. You really see that here. They're both beautiful, but I do quite love that. And then, of course, the King stands there in all his power. So it's definitely worth giving the guidebook a read through, because it is a sort of story progression. You can really get that. I've been focused on the swords because that was the one I had to reconcile. But yeah, there we have it. I have to say, love them both. If I had to choose one, I almost want to say that I would choose this one for the storybook quality too. I mean, they're both storybook quality, but there's just something about this one that is really poignant, and it feels like an old style storybooks etchings that if I was forced to choose, which, you know, thankfully I'm not, but if I was forced to choose, I would probably choose this one. But this is so gorgeous in terms of its color, and in terms of client readings, I think these kind of color poppings really play beautifully. So they're both beautiful. I don't know if that's actually going to help you decide, because right now these are both available. So this has been reproduced, as I said at the beginning, and this one is in its 3rd edition. So they're both available. So I thought this might help you to be able to decide which one you would prefer. But I don't know if this actually helps or just makes you love them both, as I do. Let me just show you these in a spread real quick, because they can be I'll show you the spread I use this a lot in. Okay, I've given it a couple of shuffles there. I generally have been using this with my large tarot spread just because it's so beautiful, and seeing those interconnections really show up with more cards, right? So I have a you know, my general tarot reading, like instead of a Celtic cross or something like that, this is my own. I know that the light's getting a little bit bright from the window. It's just such a beautiful day. Hopefully that doesn't ruin it, but we're almost done. So I have the present here. We have the connection to the past, the connection to the future. We have the 4 elements with fire, air, water, and Earth. Again, clearly haven't shuffled it enough. I really love how the frames of the major arcanas cause the major arcanas to stand out. I think it's really beautiful. Yeah, clearly I have all swords around the tower. This would be a interesting reading though, wouldn't it? But we don't get to see the full benefit of, let's see if we can get some other color in here, because it's really a beautiful, let's get some pentacles in there. And what are we missing? We're missing something. Chalices, lovers, wands, some wands in there. Shake it up a little bit, right? One of my favorite, 3 of wands down here. But yeah, it's really beautiful. And I have to say, I really enjoyed using it. Some of the nuances to some of the cards that are different than what you typically see have, I think, read in a really powerful and beautiful way. So I really am glad that Patrick allowed me to try to check this deck out originally, and that I have it now, because it's definitely one of those that's not for me just a collectible, which truthfully it's gorgeous enough to simply be a collectible, but it actually, I find it actually reads very beautifully. So I want to take a quick look at the other, I will say, I mean, they just, oops, I think I saw, yeah, the orchard flipped. Whatever the lamination is, it is not sticky at all. It is really gorgeous. Now, do as I say, not as I do. Is that what the saying is? You're really not supposed to riffle shuffle. Oh, this actually shuffles really well. You're not supposed to riffle shuffle foiled edges. I do anyways, and a good deck, like I said, the foil from the Fountain Tarot, this one seems to, I've used this quite a bit. You will see that the deck has been used, but I'm okay with that, but it holds up to it, and it holds up beautifully. I mean, my Fountain Tarot has been used to pieces, and yes, you can tell that the deck has been used, but it's still beautiful, and this is very clearly going to be that same feel to it. This riffle shuffle is really gorgeous. I have to say, I think even better than now that's the first edition. I am assuming that the third edition of which you can purchase now of Prisma Visions would be the same exact cardstock as this. So there's definitely a little bit of a difference in the cardstock. I don't know if that's all to do with the lamination or if it's just it's just a different cardstock, but this riffles gorgeously. Yeah, gorgeously. So let's take a peek. I always like to see, you know, if they've put something of their own into a reading. I like to take a look at it, although I'm not going to try to interpret this here because it's a big one, but I'm definitely going to give it a try myself. So it's a past life spread, and actually we're probably not going to be able to see this all on here, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then one down here, so it would definitely be a hard one for my video. It's going to chop that off, so we'd have to shove this up here a little bit so at least we can see it's the 5 of Pentacles. And kind of get that in there, and then you have a 4 to the side. But it looks interesting. It's showing the gender. You're looking at childhood, family, and relationships, obstacles, achievements, and spirituality, and then what their death was like. And then we have lessons and karma brought forward, purpose of the past life, and then the current life takeaway. I really like the looks of this spread, and I can always change this. You know, you can have separate this out over here and have up here being gender identity, up down here being the death, answering those. You know, we can go like this. We can feel free in spreads, depending on your space, to move them however you like, right? I really love that you can still really see the major arcana stand out from the rest of the deck. I also, one of the things I want, this gives me a good example of this. I have also noticed in readings, especially if you do, you know, cards where there's multiple cards, sometimes you get these beautiful connections, and I do pay attention to that because I found that to be really interesting when something starts to connect between two cards that aren't connected cards in the sequence, but they connect visually some way. It's a really beautiful, I found that come up quite a bit where you see those, and I think you probably would see it even more with that stark contrast of the light visions. So yep, there you have it. This has been a look at both the light visions and the Prisma Visions. Oops, I already put that one away. Again, these are I'll put the links below. I think you can get them at the same website. You can get either one at, and I think there's also a set where you can get both of them. But I would have a hard time. I think if I was forced, I'd pick this one because there's just something about this that really speaks to my old style book illustration, children's book illustration feel to it. It's really poignant, but then this is so gorgeous that I prefer not to have to choose. But that's me. I think a lot of people would really respond to the color. Some people, again, like sepia black and white. So if you have either one and have a good, experience with it, put those in the comments below. If you, which one would you choose if you had to choose one of them? Which one would it be for you? So there we go. I am babbling now because I am in color and gorgeousness overload, clearly. And this has been a really fun experience. I love being able to check things out like this. I appreciate Prisma Visions reaching out for me to be able to check this one out and be able to review it for you all. I was actually already, and I told her when she contacted me, I'm like, that's so funny. I said, I have Prisma Visions, and I had to put back in order because I was set to kind of do my review since I had a chance to actually work with the deck. So I actually have both. This one I've actually worked with, and this is like an unboxing first impression. So you get a combo of working with and first impression. So that is kind of cool, actually. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this and that has helped you in some way. I enjoy walkthroughs even if I'm never going to buy the deck, because seeing an artist's vision of tarot, there's always something to learn from it. And this one is really interesting because you actually can see sort of first visions and then, kind of, okay, if you had the chance to go back and repaint your original vision, where would those similarities be? Where would the changes be? It's kind of cool to be able to see that. So yep, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm slowly backing out of the room.